through a bunch of different processes, the raindrops will grow, and then when it overcomes gravity, it will fall to the ground. So, so that is one solution that we could do, and some studies they did, some of my research found that silver iodide is the best compound to use to act as an ice nuclei. So basically, in the ground generators, they put that in there and they burn it, release it to the atmosphere, and that acts as a nuclei, and any vapor clouds will condense onto it and form rain. So there's two different processes, the Bulgarian process, Brownian process. I'm not going to go into depth about that. It's optical conditions they found where temperatures ranging from -20 C to -8 C, which is about 17 Fahrenheit to something colder than that. Concentration of AGI particles greater than 10 to the 5th power meters cubed. And they also found some results that is not instantaneous. It takes roughly 3 hours or so. And that precipitation quantities increased to as much as 15%. So that was some great results. Also, I could draw something on the board for you that ski resorts, if they have, say this is a resort right here, and you have a bunch of ground generators, they would install them in multiple spots across the resort. They wouldn't install them to the south because if you have a southerly wind, that means you're going to have really warm temperatures and it's going to be above 32 degrees, which means if you see the cloud, it's going to be rain. So you have all these generators right here, and with the help of meteorologists, they'll be like, oh, the wind's going to come from the east. So you turn these generators on, and when the wind comes from the east, it'll seed the resort right here. Some models of success, people saw the success of these studies, and they applied it. Specifically, Colorado has been seeing a drought. So they've had like problems already on their doorstep, and they need to do something about it. Because not only is it affecting ski resorts, they don't have a reservoir of water storage. So ski resorts usually take the water from like ponds on the base, and they pump it up and make artificial snow through like nozzles on ski resorts. I don't know if any of you have gone skiing, but they have them in pretty much every resort now. But they can't even do that. So in addition to that, there's no water they're losing water for drinking water. So the Colorado Water Conservation Board steps in. They issue permits to local resorts to allow seeding to take place. Specific resort is Vail Ski Resort. They've been seeding around mountains for many decades now. Their latest data shows an increase of over 1 foot of snow in past winter season, which is great results. And best part is weather modification company takes care of any concerns. You don't have to do much work. They test the atmosphere. They test what's going on. If there's an increase, if they see too much or there's too much snow, they test to make sure there's not going to be avalanches. And if there's a threat of avalanches, they will turn off the ground generators. So they're constantly, being safe. And then soon after that, Wyoming follows in their footsteps because they're also experiencing a drought. And they do some studies done by the state indicate that they also got an increased precipitation of 15%. That was evaluated over 6 winters, comparing mountain ranges that were seeded versus non-seeded. And they applied the optimal specificities, which I mentioned before, and they applied it, and it was successful. So, I don't know why it's not going. No. So Vermont, the reason why they have not had cloud seeding yet, why it hasn't been enacted, is because they're having this false sense of security. Because with climate change, I didn't really explain this, it's called climate change because the climate changes in different ways across the entire globe. So like I said, in the West, they are experiencing more droughts. Us on the East Coast, we're actually getting increased precipitation. So we're having a false sense of security because we have all this extra water storage, so we think we have plenty of opportunity to just, suck these up and make artificial snow through the nozzles on all the slopes, and, conditions are great. But with global warming, it's going to cause more days above average, more record high temperatures and record low temperatures, less days to make artificial snow. So if every day is turning out to be more warm than like 32 degrees and they can't even make snow, so all that extra water that they thought was so great is just going to waste. So they had more precipitation also, the studies show, in the form of rain than snow in winter months. Also another thing cool to do with cloud seeding is with the help of meteorologists, he can tell you which snowstorm to seed, which storm to not seed. If there's a rainstorm coming, you obviously don't want to seed that because that was enhanced rainfall. You want to pick and choose which storms you want to seed. So if winter storm's coming, you want to seed that so you can get that extra 15% of snowfall out of that. So with all this in mind, with more precipitation in the form of rain than snow, it'll create less snowpack, deteriorating ski conditions, decreasing revenue, and that's all not good. So something needs to be done in order to help mitigate these effects, and that'll be cloud seeding. So take a look at cost analysis. The cost of cloud seeding is about $10 per acre of land. Now, the cost of making artificial snow is a little more complicated. There's a large amount of energy consumption through pumping water from a reservoir up to slopes by compressed air. And not only that, but the pumps are run on diesel engines, which just further pollute and enhance the overall problem of the CO2 emissions. But it defeats the whole purpose. So, in addition, there's massive amounts of equipment you needed. All of the pipes and nozzles in which you make artificial snow, they're on every single ski slope, all up and down it, and that costs an initial amount of over millions of dollars. And so a sum of up to a total of about $10,000 per acre. But of course, I'm not saying we would eliminate completely the making of artificial snow, but we could certainly cut back on this, increase this, and then save a lot of money. So my plan of action would be to work with Mr. Riley together on enacting legislation which would permit weather modification to take place in the state of Vermont. We would meet with multiple weather modification companies to discuss deals at cheapest offer. We would meet with individual owners of ski resorts to see who would hop on board. And then we would also prepare counter-arguments to rebuttals that are presumed to occur when proposing legislation. And with that, I'll transition to the next slide. That there are two main rebuttals that will occur for fact. I've read a bunch of articles how this came to mind a bunch of times. The hypothesis that the robbing Peter to Paul hypothesis, which basically says that our weather comes from the west in North America. So when you take moisture in Colorado downstream, you could possibly be stealing their moisture downstream and giving them a drought in like Kansas or whatever. But studies actually show this cannot be proved. There's actually a couple. I'm still doing research on this to show exactly why, but it says that it's not true. It doesn't work like that. And most importantly, if for some reason in 10 years, 15 years from now, they come out with a study that actually proves that this does actually occur, you're getting moisture in one area, you're making it rain, but you're giving a drought downstream, then I have to say Colorado